This broadcast is PC 13. Political correctness is unavailable here. Not suitable for politically correct viewers. For a mature audience only.
As well as anybody, it's not good. A small handful of powerful social media monopolies controls a vast portion of all public and private communications in the United States, and we know what they are. We don't have to name them. We're going to give you a complete listing. We're going to give you a signed copy of what I'm going to be signing in a couple of minutes, and you'll see exactly what we're doing. They've had unchecked power to censor, restrict, edit, shape, hide, alter virtually any form of communication between private citizens or large public audiences. There's no precedent in American history for so small a number of corporations to control so large a sphere of human interaction, and that includes individual people controlling vast amounts of territory, and we can't allow that to happen, especially when they go about doing what they're doing, because they're doing things incorrectly. They have points of view, and if we go by that, it's actually amazing that there was a success in 2016, but we can't let this continue to happen. It's very, very unfair. And you look at the statistics and you look at what is going on, and I think everybody would very much agree with that. Including Democrats, by the way. I saw quite a few Democrats are saying this is about time something is done. So let's see if they keep that decision after they hear that we agree with them. The choices that Twitter makes when it chooses to suppress, edit, blacklist, shadow, ban, are editorial decisions, pure and simple. They're editorial decisions. In those moments, Twitter ceases to be a neutral public platform and they become an editor with a viewpoint. And I think we can say that about others also, whether you're looking at Google, whether you're looking at Facebook, and perhaps others. One egregious example is when they try to silence views that they disagree with by selectively applying a fact check, F-A-C-T, fact check. What they choose to fact check and what they choose to ignore or even promote is nothing more than a political activism group or political activism. And it's inappropriate. You look at what's happened, you look at where they're going, where they're coming from. I think you all see it yourselves. This censorship and bias is a threat to freedom itself. Imagine if your phone company silenced or edited your conversation. Social media companies have vastly more power and more reach than any phone company in the United States, more reach actually than your newspapers. By protect and uphold the free speech and rights of the American people. Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which they're not an editor with a viewpoint. My executive order calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to make it that social media companies that engage in censoring or any political conduct will not be able to keep their liability shield. That's a big deal. They have a shield. They can do what they want. They have a shield. They're not going to have that shield. My executive order further instructs the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, to prohibit social media companies from engaging in any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce. This authority resides in Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act. I think you know it pretty well. Most of you know it very well. I would think you know it quite well, right? Additionally, I'm directing the Attorney General to work cooperatively with the states. He's going to be working very much and very closely in cooperation with the states to enforce their own laws against such deceptive business practices. The states have broad and powerful authority to regulate in this arena, and they'll be doing it also, and we encourage them to do it if they see exactly as we've been seeing. It's what they're doing is tantamount to monopoly, you can say. It's tantamount to taking over the airwaves. Can't let it happen. Otherwise, we're not going to have a democracy. We're not going to have anything to do with a republic. Finally, I'm directing my administration to develop policies and procedures to ensure taxpayer dollars are not going in any social media company that repress free speech. The government spends billions of dollars on giving them money rich enough, so we're going to be doing none of it or very little of it. As president, I'll not allow the American people to be bullied by these giant corporations. Many people have wanted this to be done by presidents for a long time. And now we're doing it, and I'm sure they'll be doing a lawsuit, and I'm also sure that we're going to be going for legislation in addition to this, and the legislation will start immediately. And I tell you, I've been called by Democrats that want to do this, and so I think you could possibly have a bipartisan situation, but we're fed up with it, and it's unfair, and it's been very unfair, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you for tuning into our early morning broadcast. It's about the topic on social media and the executive order, how important that is for people who are been new to new media, and to be able to do a broadcast or do anything without being fact checked. That's highly important to people like myself who want a revenue generating radio show and a broadcast where, you know, we can talk about the constitutional principles. So as we get into the morning show here shortly after this, I thought it was appropriate to talk about that. And you got to listen to a clip from what happened yesterday, and we'll see what the rebound is from. And there's going to be a lot of information today. Probably a lot of topics about what happened. I noticed on the 5 there was a lot of things discussed about Twitter. So it'll be interesting as we go into the next part of the segment. You're listening to Amateur Radio Network. Go.
Good morning from Amateur Radio USA. How are you, folks? It's a bright, sunny day here in the great state of Arizona. And I'm up early, and I have something to talk about. Oh, yes, something profound. You know, we have a lot going on in our nation, and a lot of it isn't good. and we have to address it. We have to take the cod liver oil in the morning like we used to back in the 40s, 50s, to keep us healthy. And this amateur radio is the cod liver oil of the airwaves, because it will do us good to reflect mightily upon the events of the day and those that have transpired in the past. And the concept I want to talk about, since we're talking about the virus and medical issues, is the Hippocratic Oath. The heart of the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. I want to say that again. Do no harm. When a doctor, any doctor, takes on the mantle of the white coat and brings people in a vulnerable state, and they put themselves in their hands for treatment and help, they must, above all, live up to that Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. Now, when you have a place like Farview, where my father was put, they not only violated that oath, but they blatantly violated it. It was not a place of treatment. It was not a place of help. It was not a place where a person is made better, made whole, and then sent home in a better way than when he came in. Quite the opposite. The person is brought in, enslaved for the rest of their life, tortured, beaten, worked for nothing. And if they were sent home at all, they were sent home a totally broken human being, or on a slab, along with a bill. Can you believe the mendacity of that? They sent them back home broken and shattered with a bill to the family.
Break in 5 seconds.
But this so-called treatment, do no harm, was violated. The sacred oath of all physicians.
And we'll be back after this with the more of the morning show talk segment and the topic on Hippocratic Oath. Be back in 2. You're listening to Amateur Radio Network.
Well, folks, I've talked enough, and I'd like to introduce my favorite partner on this radio show, Miss Jenny.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to be back on air. And Doc was talking about a Hippocratic Oath. I would say how comforting that topic is to know that when there are doctors that do good, especially with the coronavirus and the limitations that have been put on all of us. I mean, almost ridiculous. But see, I think what it is that unchecked power is the reason why everything's so extreme. And that's the forms of government, the 3 branches of government is where there's checks and balances in the system. And a lot of the things that are going on right now is because of unchecked power. And what we saw is in social media with the signing of this executive order is exactly what's been going on. It's all this unchecked power. Would you agree, Doc?
Yes, I do. I certainly do. Unchecked power, you know what they say, that those that have power corrupts, and absolute power absolutely corrupts.
Yeah.
Now, when a doctor has to live up to the Hippocratic Oath, it's a broad sense oath. He has to look at the big picture. It's not enough just to treat the virus without worrying about the economic impact. I mean, there are people literally going crazy from being locked up so long, not being able to go anywhere. There are people suffering real distress, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. Families are fighting among each other. You cannot lock people up like this, prevent them from going anywhere, doing anything, making a living, socializing. Guys can't date girls, girls can't date guys, you can't get within 6 feet of each other, you can't go to concerts, you can't go to ball games. These are all a big part of our culture.
Yeah.
And of our American way of life that keep us, sane. If you remember,
Doc, I would say that all that stuff that you just said about the doctors is unchecked power. No one gives no one is morally, ethically allowed to have that much power over another human being's life. that's why there's a jury of 12. That's why these constitutional freedoms, that was a big win for constitutional freedoms. And really, your constitutional freedoms are being violated if a Hippocratic oath is not honored, or, you know, I mean, it's against the law. So it's a constitutional matter. And we were talking about this yesterday in our interview process. You and I were talking about how you got to talk to the representative. I mean, you really need to talk to representatives about the constitutionality of any violation, and you know best, Doc, about that topic. So, about constitutional freedoms. Could we go on there about principles and freedoms? Like, your dad didn't even have the basic constitutional freedoms respected.
Well, you were right, Jenny, and the Constitution, was developed by not a bunch of stupid old white men, slave owning, blah, 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 but by brilliant men, brilliant men. We still, to this day, 240 years later, are amazed at how they were able to get together, Constitutional Convention and so forth, and come up with an amazing document that they did, the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident and so on. Now, we have lived by this for over 200 years. We built the greatest nation the world has ever seen. And now, to throw it off the table is an abomination, an absolute atrocity. There's no other word for it.
We'll be back after this for more on topics, and you want to stay tuned to talk about the border issue, because I want us to get to that issue. Isn't that right, Doc?
Correct.
Okay, we'll be back after this. The Morning Show at Amateur Radio Network. All right, we're back here for our morning show, and a lot of smooth talk, conversation, light music, things that we like here. And the conversation's very light. It's like drinking a cup of coffee. That's what I like about smooth talk radio. We got a little bit of jazz. We can add a little country. We're a little bit of everything wrapped up in one. And I want to bring in Doc again. We were talking about the issues on constitutional freedoms. I guess we should jump in there and start with the border issue about constitutional freedoms.
Yes, I think we should, Jenny, and I have a unique approach to this. You've heard all the standard arguments about the border. But I live out in the American West, and right near a huge Native American Apache reservation. And every once in a while, I see a T-shirt that has words to the kin. The reason we lost our nation was we had little or no border control. Now, when I stopped and thought about that these people who basically owned, if you want to put it that way, although they didn't view it that way, the United States of America before the white man came were very weak on border control. And they were foolish enough to, many of them, sell off, like Manhattan, for a bucket full of trinkets, a chest full of trinkets, and so forth, to scheming foreigners who saw how vulnerable they were, that they didn't appreciate or protect what they had. It was taken from them, stolen from them, literally. And we know that history. And we all hang our heads low about what was done, but we took the white man, the European, took one of the greatest pieces of real estate ever created on this planet, which is now the United States of America. Well, now we seem to be repeating the same mistake that those, I would say, some greedy chiefs, they were the ones that sold it out. Like when Lewis and Clark went up the river, he deliberately carried kettles made of cast iron, hatchets, mirrors.
Breaking 5.
These things were not produced by the American Indians, so they were amazed. And the chiefs saw steel axes as an advantage in battle against their enemies, and the big cast iron pot, they could cook their meat better. And they allowed these white men to intrude into their land at a low price for a couple of trinkets. This story was repeated over and over again in our history. And aren't we doing the same thing? We're allowing our country to be invaded for a few trinkets, cheap labor, somebody to cut our grass, make our beds. Come on, produce meat at half the price of labor.
Well,
while we give away the best piece of real estate on the entire planet. You understand, Jenny?
yeah,
How
yeah. I mean, and America probably would be a totally different country if that would have happened. We have to break up. We're gonna be back a little bit shortly after this, for more coffee news and a lot of lively morning show talk. It's been a great morning starting out, so stay tuned for more.